You are about to take the first steps of your adventure. Through a realm of sword and sorcery you will travel, battling bloodthirsty monsters as you strive to realize your ambitions.
Thanks to Square Enix for the review copy. Thanks to Azdin who's reviewed this for us. Welcome back to the channel, and remember, if you enjoy the content, do consider sticking around. Voice of Cards is a compelling attempt to blend RPG gameplay with the suspense and engrossment of tabletop games. At first glance, it looks like a digital card game like Slay the Spire, until you hear the game master narrating the events as they occur. There is something special here, and it comes from the team behind the Drakengard and Nier series, who have pooled all their creativity to bring this adventure to life. Is this a royal flush, or should you fold early? Well, let's find out. The story follows the protagonist and his monster friends as they set off to slay a recently awakened dragon. With the queen promising a huge reward, our heroes race against their competition, the Ivory Order, to eradicate the beast. As they navigate through their adventure, they'll recruit new characters, with each representing a different class, such as an archer or witch. Each one of these have their own reason to hunt down the dragon, and you learn their motivations as the story progresses. All of the voice acting is carried out by the game master.
At any rate, I'm the game master,
who will narrate all the events and treat the whole playthrough as a real tabletop experience. There are moments when he will voice some of the characters, and others when he congratulates you for defeating a tough opponent. The script and voice talent are of a high standard, making the whole experience feel really immersive. They do break the fourth wall a few times, reminding you that you're playing a tabletop RPG, and the developers have made sure to also give him a good sense of humour.
He is dumber than a sack of rocks.
I always felt that I was part of the tabletop adventure, and this game manages to invoke your imagination while carrying out a quest or battle, almost simulating the true tabletop experience. The main protagonist initially comes across somewhat avaricious, driven by the wealth promised to whoever can slay the dragon. But let's just say this turns around as it progresses, and you'll grow to love him as the story goes on. Gameplay-wise, the RPG plays out in a slightly different fashion than you might be used to. On the one hand, it's a touch choose-your-own-adventure with different choices to make, and on the other, a more classic-style RPG with side quests, character progression, which is leveled up through combat using the card-based mechanics, and random events that will extend the playthrough. Lastly, you'll find dungeons within the game, but most of your time will be spent on that main storyline. In true tabletop fashion, some random events are traps that require a dice roll skill check in order to avoid injury. Like with many other role-playing games, there's loads of gold to earn and spend in shops and armories where you can purchase items and gear. Battles are initiated at random in the overworld map and will take place on a separate table. Your character cards will appear on the bottom of the screen and your enemies on the top. The battles are turn-based, where you have to choose a command card specific to each character. Gems are generated once per character turn and are used to trigger special events. This is essentially the equivalent to a mana or SP gauge as seen in many other games. The difference is that the gems are shared amongst your heroes, and some actions require 1, 2 or more to use, some of which also rely on dice rolls for their effectiveness. I felt that this added to the strategy in the battles, as knowing when to use taxing, powerful attacks at the cost of accumulated gems was key to victory, with the dice rolls being an extra element of chance. Some battles will have a happenstance card, which will affect everyone on the battlefield. This randomly presents a card on every turn that offers buffs or ailments, making battles more varied and minimizing the monotony. The game's not hard, and I only found it challenging towards the very end of the story. I never struggled or got stuck at any point, and the battle mechanics are straightforward, making it feel very accessible, but with enough complexity to still be very enjoyable. Cards are used for more than just battling. If you need a break from adventuring, why not play an addictive card game? The aim is to pair up cards or create a 3-card sequence. Each player gets 2 cards, and the game ends when all 24 are spent. Whoever has the highest score wins. What's the point, I hear you ask? Well, this is where you earn extra dice as well as item skins. There are a lot of cards to unlock and collect, including items, gear and enemy cards. All can be checked out in the menu. There are also special numbered cards, and these will be required if you want to unlock the true ending. They're gifted to the player after certain events. The whole experience takes around about 10 to 12 hours to complete, and although that's relatively short, it is an enjoyable one. The amount of cards that need collecting add to the replay value. The combat's complex enough, but not too much so. I think some may find it a bit too easy. The controls of the game are simple and responsive. My only criticism is the speed at which the token moves on the map, due to the card flipping animation. Minor gripe, and luckily, if you want to fast travel from one part to the other, you can select your landing zone with the right stick and jump to that location immediately with the press of an A button. This feature made the pacing far more bearable and enjoyable, as without this it would have become tedious, especially with random battle encounter rates. I would have preferred that these were a toggle rather than something that was always on. Gameplay scores 15 out of 20 and the controls score 16 out of 20. As I'm sure you've gathered by now, everything within this title is card-based. The characters, the map, the towns, even the menu is composed of numerous cards. I found it very charming to have a map made out of different terrain cards laid out on a wooden table. I really like the transition of going into a town, with the token suspending itself as the map cards cleared rapidly off the table, followed by the town cards swiftly and neatly interlocking. It's very stylish. As far as the visuals go, the game delivers a high-quality experience. There are no lip sync animations here, and all characters, as mentioned before, are illustrated on those cards. The illustrations are decorated with embossed gold foil, making them stand out further. The character animations are delivered by the cards moving around and carrying out certain actions. As far as the special effects, these really shine during combat and during certain story segments. I actually think the way they've animated the cards has worked really nicely. They really have managed to convey their message adequately using such a simple idea. All the cards have a specific style to them, and their layout, color and illustrations allow for a better visual aid. The text size, thank goodness, is decent, which helps the user, and the interface is nice and clear and easy to grasp. There's an element of fog of war here as well. Moving your token will cause the cards to flip over and reveal the terrain. There's a thrilling glee to uncovering a chest or another event, and it also encouraged me to try and reveal as much of the map as possible. Let's look at performance then. Well, I had no issues with stuttering or any frame drops, but I think this visual style won't appeal to everyone, even though I loved it. Visuals score 17 out of 20. All the voice acting and storytelling is carried out by one person, that being the games master. Although some may feel that having one person doing all of the talking during your playthrough could end up being monotonous, not only was his voice fitting, but his approach also made for a laid-back and fun experience.
Just as you're about to faint from the oppressive heat, a heroic voice calls out to you.
His inputs heighten the experience rather than detract from it. The soundtrack has some Gaelic folk music instrumental pieces, which are pleasant enough, albeit somewhat forgetful. The sound effects do synergize well with the elemental animations, particularly during battle, and help the cards come to life. The transitions of characters have a pleasant movie with a peacefully sung tune. I thought both the narration and the audio was very good, although a couple of the tunes were a little repetitive. Audio scores 17 out of 20. Voice of cards The Isle Dragon Roars can be purchased from the eShop for £24.99, €29.99 or $29.99, and has a download size of 2.3 gigs. There are a couple of cosmetic DLCs available, and there's also a physical limited edition that includes the game, a 48-page art book, and you guessed it, 3 metal cards. This was available from Square Enix on their store, but I think it's already sold out, which is a bit of a shame. As I mentioned, you will be able to complete the game in under 15 hours. A touch short for a traditional RPG, but on the flip side of that, some people might be looking for exactly that, a slightly smaller, more refined experience. I must say, it does feel a little bit like sometimes they're just cutting bits out of a full game and selling it as DLC, and I would have liked to have seen those cosmetics just included in the price tag. Then we'd be looking at 18 or 19 for value. As it stands, I'm going to take a few points off. It gets 16 out of 20. Voice of Cards is a bold and refreshing attempt at marrying the best elements of tabletop and digital role-playing games. There's a lot to like about it, and the developers may have just created a subgenre with this installment. It's a clever story, and the games master is awesome. The only downside, or potentially upside depending on your time, is its overall length being a tad short, and they really should have included a difficulty setting, as the default is a touch too easy. Personally, I hope to see more developers taking risks at trying something new in a world saturated by hundreds hundreds of the same experience. A sequel with added difficulty and game length would be a step in the right direction. Tabletop players, this one's definitely for you, but also maybe for others. It scores an overall SwitchUp score of 81%. A massive thanks to Azdin for writing this one. Let us know in the comments if it interests you. I know some of you have already picked it up and really enjoyed it. And as always, a big thanks to our patrons. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya!